So welcome back.
Hi.
So I'm Daniel Vincent. And
Chris Arceneault.
with Chris Arceneault with me tonight. And if those of you, if any of you know Chris, you know of his awesome artwork that he's got out there. He's got he's always creating arts, and it's something spectacular. You just you absolutely need to see what he does. Amazing. An advocate for epilepsy. So welcome to this podcast, Chris.
Thank you.
So I'm told that so you're from is it Indiana?
Yeah, I live in Indiana. Yeah.
Okay, right. Mm-hmm. So great. So I summed up a few questions.
Okay.
And it's amazing how we're able to just gather up. You're from Indiana, I'm from Canada, and here we are talking together. Isn't that crazy?
Yes, it is.
For sure. So you've lived with epilepsy.
Yes.
So when did this start?
Well, I was born with absence seizures, which I outgrew by 12.
Right.
And then later on in life, I had an accident where I hit my head extremely hard, and it caused a tear in my right temporal lobe, and the scar tissue developed, became a focal point for seizures.
Okay.
I had a few tonic-clonic, but I mostly had complex partial seizures.
Okay, so that it's the hit?
Did
this?
Yeah.
Really?
The head trauma, yes.
So what exactly happened?
I was working in the dark, developing photos in an overlight photo lab.
Mm-hmm.
I hit my head so hard I saw a flash of light.
Right.
And apparently that caused a tear in my right temporal lobe. And later, as it healed, the scar tissue built up, and it started interfering with my brain waves, causing seizures.
Mm-hmm. Yes, because that's what seizures are. Because the seizures are. Well, your brain itself works. It's miraculous because you've got trillions and trillions of brain connections throughout your brain. So can you describe to the audience? So what's a seizure?
It's interruption of your brain waves. It's electrical storm in your brain, basically. And the seizures I was having, besides the tonic-clonic grandma normal type seizures, I had 3 of them. All of them were while I was asleep. So I don't know anything about them, except I was really sore when I woke up.
Okay, I can just imagine. So tonic-clonic and grand mal, is it what's the difference?
That's the same thing. It's just a different term that they've come up with.
Okay.
Because the word mal, translated from French, means evil. So they were, when they would use grand mal and petit mal, they were talking about a large evil and a small evil back when people thought it was possession.
Interesting. So I didn't know that.
Yeah, so that's why they changed the names away from those.
Well, there you go for it. There's some history for everyone.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So when you had seizures, what was it like to be living with them?
Oh, it was rough because I'd have to be 6 months seizure free before I could drive.
All right. So you're driving now?
Yeah, I'm seizure free now, but I had brain surgery. But when I was having them, one time I went 6 months seizure free and got to drive, and drove to the dentist office because I had an abscess tooth and got that fixed. And then the next day I had a seizure. So that was it. So I had to start over another 6 months.
Really? Ouch. Do you know what caused that seizure?
No, I never really was able to figure out what my triggers were.
No?
So many possible triggers. Mine just happened so random wasn't able to figure out.
Okay. So I asked because of the triggers. There are so many out there that experience triggers. Because I know my triggers.
Yeah.
Which would cause my seizures.
Yeah.
And my triggers were to sleep. I need I need a whole lot of sleep in my
Oh,
life.
yeah. Lack of sleep's a big one.
Then food intake.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my diet.
Yeah.
And a certain level of fitness. So I had to combine three of them. So I ended up creating a triangle.
Yeah.
Which, and the very top of that triangle was to reduce stress.
Okay. Yeah. Stress is a huge for.
It's a huge one for
Yeah.
so many.
That and flashing lights are the top two, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So my very top was reduce stress, and I actually figured out how to eliminate my own stress.
Yeah, that's great.
Yes. Then the bottom corner on my left was my sleep.
Yeah.
So I need a full 8 hours of sleep every night.
Yeah. Like
Because if I don't, I feel it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then on the next corner is my diet. I make sure that I follow a keto diet.
Okay.
So I eat meats, vegetable, and I try to eat. As for the meat, I try to go for grass fed.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And as much as I can, I eliminate sugars.
Yeah.
I understand that you just can't get rid of all sugar.
Yeah.
But I try as much as I can. And because of it, I've been seizure free now for at least 30 years.
No, that's great.
Yes. But I also had a surgery back when I was 18.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, because I was suffering from the right temporal lobe seizures.
Yeah. That's what I've got. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And
Wow.
I was having the complex partial seizures,
Right.
where I would get an aura first, where I would get a deja vu feeling, and then my stomach would drop like going down on a roller coaster.
Mm-hmm.
And right after that, I would lose awareness for up to a few minutes, and I'd be frozen in place.
So
make chewing motion with my mouth a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. Wow.
And,
so these deja vu. What can you explain that?
most people have had deja vu before. It's not normal with people without epilepsy. It's rare, but with people with epilepsy, it's pretty common. It's a feeling that you've done something before.
Yes, I have experience.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And some people have just the opposite. It's Jarmus vu, where they're looking at something that they've used before, like a laptop, and then it feels like they've never seen it before, and don't know what to do with it. Yeah, that's just the opposite of deja vu.
Huh. Wow, it sounds just crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Never had that before, but I've heard.
So those are auras.
Yeah, which are actually seizures. They are focal seizures.
Okay.
And they can develop into other types of seizures or just stop on their own.
Wow, it's amazing how you experience these auras, because as I said, I've experienced them as well.
Yeah.
And my auras not only came from the deja vus. Now lately, I've been experiencing like lapse of memory.
Yeah.
Where even a road map.
Mm-hmm.
Road maps used to come to me like it was just there. Now I go somewhere, I come back, and I don't recall how to get there.
Mm. Yeah, epilepsy really affects the memory, and seizure medications themselves can make the memory worse.
Yes. So
seizure.
Yeah, I've come across a lot of people who mention that as well.
Yeah.
Now, even for depression.
Yeah.
We don't all experience epilepsy in the same way.
No.
Not everyone goes through depression through my understanding.
Yeah, but a lot of people do.
And
I had really bad depression before I had my surgery.
Oh yes.
And as soon as I woke up from the surgery, it was gone. So the same focal point that was causing depression, the seizures was causing the depression too.
So it wasn't really the outside world. It was what was going on up here.
Yeah, and all this, I was still taking all the same medicines, so it wasn't none of them. It was just gone.
Right. Wow.
Amazing. Yeah.
Huh. So it's amazing how it just happened.
Yeah.
I'm glad you were able to get rid of that, because that depression could be not only for people with epilepsy, but depression is very common out there. Now, for someone to be able to just switch it off, that's wonderful.
Yes, that was great.
Mm-hmm.
That made a huge difference.
Right. So the surgery that you got.
Yes.
Can you explain it?
Okay. Well, first I had what's called a SEEG, which is an intracranial VEG.
Okay.
They drilled holes in my skull and put electrodes into my brain to get a better reading for an EEG to make sure they were all coming from the right side. And the day they pulled the wires out, they did the right temporal lobe resection surgery. They went in and they cut out a golf ball sized piece of my right temporal lobe, which is referred to as the pole, which basically turned off my right temporal lobe. And the surgery doesn't help with memory problems either, because especially with the temporal lobe, because they do the job of converting your short-term memory into long-term memory while you're sleeping. So now I only have half of that ability. So if you've seen the movie 50 First Dates where she lost everything overnight, it's similar to that. I've only got half that ability.
What's the name of it?
The 50 First Dates.
Okay, let me write that down.
Yeah.
I've seen it.
Yeah. It was Drew Barrymore, and when she went to sleep, she lost the whole day. She didn't remember anything from the next. She thought it was the same day every morning.
Okay, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
But the earlier in the day something happens, the better a chance I have of remembering it.
Okay. Huh.
Yeah.
Wow. Do you recall what year was that? Was that done in? Do you know?
My surgery.
Yeah.
Was in 2014.
Okay.
So February 21st. So I'm going to make 7 years seizure free next month.
Wow. That's just awesome. So, because my surgery goes back in 1984.
Okay. Yeah.
And I was before I got the surgery. The neurologist who was treating me, he came up to me and actually it was strange because at this point I was 18 years old. Okay. So I was actually in my graduation year.
Yeah.
And by that time, like epilepsy had taken a toll on me. Between the depressions, between isolating myself, putting myself in a bubble because people around me were distancing themselves from me. Yeah. And I was tired of getting hurt by approaching people and they back off. Not hurt physically, but mentally. Yeah. So emotionally. Yeah. So I wrapped myself in a bubble. And that bubble in time thickened. It got really thick. Yeah. And I got home and there was no room for mom and dad. Yeah. My siblings couldn't get in. So I ended up growing up on my own. And to this day, mom actually tells me, says, you did what you want to do and nobody could influence you. not even themselves. Yeah. Says, I take everything, put it in a bag, mix it up. Says, this is what I want. That's what I take off with. Which is, in a sense, one of the reasons why I got a lot of insight when I was really young. Yeah. I grew up on my own. Yeah. But so 18 years old, neurologist come up to me and says, Dad, what would you think of going for surgery? I says, surgery? Well, what are you talking about, doc? He says, well, a brain surgery. He says, what?
Yeah.
Something that can change my life? Yeah, for sure. I'm in.
Yeah.
And then I asked him, so what are my chances? And he looked at me and with a grin, he says, and he says, it's an outstanding 98%. I was ecstatic. He says,
Yeah.
great. Let's do it. He says, not so quick. Oh, he says, well, why not? And this is when he approached me. And here's this man. And he paused. And so he looked at me and he says, I need to let you know something first. He says, what's that? He says, well, you see, before you go through this, I need to let you know that you'd be the 18th patient in the world to ever undergo this surgery.
Oh, wow.
I said, wow, really? So in essence, he takes my hopes up, lifts it up really, really high. And within 10 seconds, crushes them. I had a feeling in my gut.
Yeah.
Now what do I do? And on graduation year, I'm 18 years old.
Yeah.
And my parents couldn't decide for me.
Yeah.
That was my decision
Mm-hmm.
because I was now of age of consent.
Yeah.
That was a huge decision to take on for an 18-year-old.
Yeah, real.
Yeah. So
you're the experiment. Yeah.
So it's exactly. That's how I felt.
Yeah.
So then I came back, and here I was, and he looks at me, and he says, "You see, what you'll be going through is that drastic. It's a drastic surgery." He says, "Yes," but then I asked him, says, "Doc, what if I don't?" And this is when he went silent. And here was this man. He was tall, broad shoulders, has huge hands, fingers like sausage, square jaw, intimidating in anybody's eyes, but he looked scared.
No.
So I knew what he was going to say wasn't going to be good.
Yeah.
So I braced myself. I said, "Okay, doc, let me have it." So he looks at me. Says, "If you don't go through with this, as your seizures keep on developing and get worse, you are slowly turning into a vegetable." And as he said that, that lump in my stomach, I felt sick. I wanted to vomit.
Yeah.
Because I knew what I didn't want.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want my seizures to get worse, but I also didn't want to become a burden to society any more than what I was then.
Yeah.
So I went for the surgery. I put my life in his hands and says, "Okay, you do this."
Yeah.
And I went for the surgery. And 8 hours later, came out. And there I was. So no seizures, and my seizures were gone.
Yeah.
They were the seizures, the ones that you could see, were gone. And I was just grateful for it. But what remained was a lot of anxiety.
Oh, yeah.
A whole lot of anxiety. Because I was living with anxiety from the age of a year old.
Yeah.
And they kept on telling me that they kept on telling me how I felt. And my body was vibrating. I felt there was a vibration on the inside of me.
Yeah.
Steady. And I thought that was normal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have anxiety attacks too.
Oh, do you?
Yeah. And I take a medicine called Klonopin, which is an anti-seizure medicine, but it's in the same drug family as Xanax. So it works to control anxiety too. So that it works really good.
Wow.
But I do have some Xanax on standby for days where the anxiety just gets too bad.
Mm-hmm.
I take one of those and it calms it down.
Okay. So what does the
makes a big difference?
Wow. What does the anxiety do to you? What is it? How does it make you feel?
It's just like I'm shaking all over inside and really extremely nervous.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and I get jumpy. I get touchy.
Okay.
I can easily get upset
Mm-hmm.
if it's
And
really bad.
afterwards, many years after, I was told, like I'm talking up to about 5 years ago,
Yeah.
I found out that what I was experiencing were actual seizures.
No, yeah.
Yes. So these were seizures in a form as well. They were partial seizures.
Yes.
Yeah. And these partial seizures would make me feel so paranoid, scared, frightened.
Mm-hmm.
And you just mentioned jumpy, where nobody could touch you.
Yeah.
Like just that scared. And I was wondering I didn't know where I fit in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it manifests in so many ways. Epilepsy is just a crazy condition out there.
Yes. And I've also had panic attacks before,
Okay.
which are pretty much the same thing, except for extreme fear is added in, where you're just sitting there like terrified for no reason at all.
Mm-hmm. And are you jumpy too?
Yeah, but you're still nervous and anxiety, but it's just unexplainable fear. It's just, so it's the worst of the two. But I haven't had one of them in a long time, so.
Okay.
I think the surgery helped those
Count
too.
your blessings on that one, because those are awful.
Oh yeah, those are extremely bad.
Yeah. Because there was a time when I was experiencing them multiple times daily,
Mm-hmm.
every day, and I thought again that was part of who I was.
Yeah.
I didn't think this was epilepsy. I really didn't.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, so that's it was just crazy. So how did you cope with all this, Chris? How did this come about, and how were you able to tame this and move on with your life?
Well, it wasn't easy. I mean, knowing that a seizure could happen at any time, any place. And I've had some in public before, but you just try to keep going and not worry about it as much, and do what you can do. And I've been on disability for other reasons other than epilepsy too. So mostly at home all the time. So that's when I started doing painting.
Oh, right. We're explaining why you're able to do all this. Good.
Yeah. And somebody suggested, I was doing painting for years. Somebody suggested maybe I should do something for epilepsy. And that got me started. And I did my first painting, and then created the Epilepsy Shield project, where I've done over 100 paintings.
I know you've done several. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I've done some for different states, for the epilepsy foundations of the different states, and send them to them.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
It's
and Mississippi's just changed their state flag, so I offered if they send the painting back, I'll edit it for them and change the flag. So they'll put that on their list of things to do.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Nice. So, why do you think so many people don't really understand what epilepsy is all about, what it does, and who we are? Because I asked this because it kind of boggles my mind, because epilepsy is frequent. If my understanding is that 1 in 26
yes
can experience it.
Yeah, it's develop it sometime in their life.
Right. So if it's that common, why is it not public knowledge that throughout everywhere?
Because it's an invisible condition. Unless you're having a seizure, nobody can tell you have it.
True.
So that makes a big difference. And when they do see you having a seizure, a lot of people think, oh, they're drunk or they're on drugs or something like to that effect. Not that, oh, they're having a seizure, they don't automatically go that way.
Right. So misconception.
Yeah.
Okay. And because outside of what I do, outside of advocacy for epilepsy, I'm also, I deal with mental health. and we talk. I speak a lot about awareness.
Yes.
And awareness itself comes from, and if you bring it up with epilepsy, comes from misunderstanding,
Yeah.
misinformation.
Yeah. There's a lot of
So
misinformation.
someone thinking of, let's just say, a myth. A
Yeah.
myth comes, and the one that I'll bring out is putting something in somebody's mouth.
Oh yes.
That's the most common one.
Yeah.
You hear about out there, and why wouldn't you do that? Why wouldn't someone want to do that?
As they think they can swallow their tongue, which is completely impossible. Because one reason it's attached to the bottom of your mouth.
You just can't. You just can't.
Yeah, and another reason is if you're having a seizure and your muscles tighten up, it's the strongest muscle in your body. So it's going to stiffen up. It's not going to be flopping around in your mouth. So it can't be swallowed. It can be chewed up quite a bit, but
yeah. So what you're saying, don't put your fingers in somebody's mouth with having.
no, definitely not your finger, because it can be bit off. Because when the muscles tighten up and your teeth clench down, people have lost fingers that way.
Oh, absolutely. And for those who are not fully aware of epilepsy, someone going through a seizure, it becomes so rigid, so stiff. You just cannot pull them apart. I remember my mother, when I was having my seizures, my parents was telling me that if I clench something in my hands, that's where it would stay. They just couldn't open up.
No, that's well, even if it's a partial seizure, a complex partial where you lock up. My wife said she made the mistake of letting me grab her hand during one of them. Yeah.
Oh, I feel for her.
She made that mistake once.
Yeah, not twice. You know what? Some things you learn quick.
Yeah.
Wow. That's just crazy.
Yeah.
But your family. So
well, my family is my family's in Louisiana, so they're 900 miles away. So
right.
Don't interact with them too much. But my wife's been with me through the whole thing. She was with me when I had my very first seizure after hitting my head. Okay. Which was really strange because she was working days and I was working nights, and so we only saw each other like 30 minutes a day, and wow. And she just happened to be going to work night that time, and so we were both in bed sleeping when I had the seizure. So she woke up to me having the seizure, and knew right away I was, what was, and took me to the hospital. So otherwise, I would have never known I had it, and I would have got in the car and drove. And
so she's your lifeline.
Oh yeah, she's been with me through all of it and all.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's so great to have a lifeline like that.
Oh yeah.
Yes. I know that I hear of people who are having trouble with others who feel that what they're going through is not real.
Yeah.
I recall when I was younger that even my own family, as I grew up, my brother would come out, and being from Canada, just as an instance, Dad, I want to tell Dad to come help me. Look at him. He's lazy. He doesn't want to shovel with me. And here I am having a seizure. Yeah. And these are things that were told to me afterwards because I was not aware of any of this.
Yeah. When I had mine, I'd feel the aura and I would blank out and I wouldn't know that I was absent for 2 or 3 minutes. I mean, it just felt like I had the aura and I kept going. They'd have to tell me that I was out.
Right. And so this I'm giving you one instance, and I have several. Yeah. Yes, and you're talking about being out after an aura, and then there's a couple of minutes, and you're back with it. I remember one of my, I guess I must have been around 17 when I brought my first date to the movie. Yeah, exactly. We can laugh now.
Yeah.
But, here I was, 17 years old, and I got the nerve to ask somebody out. Like, I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
So I asked her out to the movie. And so we went to the movie, and all of a sudden, the movie, everything was black. And so what's going on here? I look around. There's nobody.
Mhm.
Everybody was gone, including my date. But I said, what the heck just happened? Then I realized, because my shirt was wet. Because when I had a seizure, I started drooling.
Oh, yeah.
And everything was wet. I said, okay, I know what went on here. But weird enough, so everybody left. The theater was done. So I must have been having a seizure for quite some time.
Yeah.
For the whole movie to go and then everybody's gone.
Yeah.
But the weirdest thing is that didn't they have any attendants or anyone around going to the seats?
Yeah.
I got up and I left.
Yeah.
Without a date.
Yeah. Went home alone.
That was the first and the last time I saw this girl.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Oh yeah. And, so growing up, it was crazy because as I said, I mentioned this as when I wrapped myself in that bubble, I was doing it because I tired of people condescending me or making jokes.
Yeah.
And those jokes I would laugh with them, but inside of myself, I was wondering, this is really not funny.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So that's where I was at.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So it's yeah. So I'm sure you must have a whole pile of stories as well. Because you sit back, you start thinking, oh, I remember this, I remember that, and it was crazy.
What's really bad is when somebody on TV makes a joke about it.
Yes.
And it's spreading misinformation.
Mm-hmm.
One of the newscasters one time said, they mentioned something about epilepsy, and when it was getting ready to go off, he said, "We better go. I'm having a seizure. I'm going to swallow in my tongue." And oh boy, that set the epilepsy community off. And he got so many messages on Facebook. He finally released a video apologizing.
Mm-hmm.
On
yeah,
Facebook. He should have done it on the air, but he did it on Facebook at least.
Right. So I would say before saying something, make sure you've got your facts straight. But maybe he thought he did have his facts straight.
Yeah, and he was just making a joke. He didn't think he was going to hurt anybody. But
is that what he was doing? Making a joke?
Yeah, he was making a joke.
Oh, that's even worse.
Yeah, because they were talking about it, and then he said, "We better go now. I think I'm having a seizure. Well, I'm swallowing my tongue." Making a joke about it. And
a huge apology needed there.
Yeah.
Straighten things out a little bit.
Yeah. And there was another famous comedian was on the talk show with a bunch of women, and we're talking, and he was saying, if a guy really likes a woman, she's not going to get rid of him. He's going to follow her around. He said, she could fake a seizure.
What?
Yeah. To try to get rid of him, she could fake a seizure. And it's like, oh no.
Yeah.
It's horrible when you hear a famous person say something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yes, for sure. So was this a long time ago?
Yeah, it's been a while. Yeah, it's been years still.
Okay. Do you find yourself still hearing stuff like that out on the street or even media?
Not as much. I think they've learned their lesson some, but every now and then somebody does something like that. And it was good that just last week the TV show Blue Bloods mentioned epilepsy.
Oh.
And they did a good job with it.
Oh yes.
Yeah, they said one of their police officers was found sleeping in a car, and his reason for it was that he had had a seizure, and afterwards it made him tired and he was sleeping.
Mhm.
And they were saying, well, not reporting that's a violation. And then they said, well, that's getting into the doctor-patient confidentiality. And the commissioner said, well, we don't want to go there. We'll just try to make sure he just wasn't sleeping off a hangover. So they handled it really well. They did great.
Okay. Wow.
So that every little bit helps, every little bit of awareness. And that's such a popular show.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Tom Selleck gets paid $200,000 an episode for that, for his role on that.
Wow, for sure. Wow, that's
Yeah.
So why is it important to you to share your message to the world? Because as you said, you got this, you got your artwork, and not only in your state but elsewhere.
Yeah.
So why do you want to share this message?
To get rid of the myths, the misbeliefs, and to get the real facts out there. And you know, there are still people that believe epilepsy is a form of possession.
Still,
which is crazy. Yeah.
Why would you think that?
Well, I think part of it is there's a story in the Bible where Jesus healed a possessed boy, and the father, when he explained what happens when the demon took over, sounds an awful lot like a seizure. He said he'd start shaking and fall to the ground, and it sounded like a seizure. But they knew what seizures were back then. It's in the other places in the Bible. And the father said sometimes when it takes over, it tries to throw him into a fire or into the water to kill him. It's like a seizure's not going to do that. So, but people make that connection. And
so I know people have been stoned to death because they were having seizures.
Yeah, and burned
because they were possessed.
Yeah, burned at the stake for being a witch, or they were forced into colonies like leopards were.
Yes, because people thought they were possessed.
Yeah, and they thought they were contagious and stuff like that over the years.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Some people think that epilepsy is contagious, and it's another
it's a physical condition.
Complete false myth.
Yeah, it's a physical condition. It's some form of brain damage or malformation or genetic defect.
Yes.
It's one of those three, every type of, and there's over 140 types of epilepsy.
That many, eh?
Yeah. They're all just, epilepsy is just a term used to cover any condition that will cause repeated seizures.
Right. Huh.
It's just
something that I haven't encountered. Because there are neurologists, neurosurgeons, and there are also epileptologists.
Yeah, epileptologists. Yeah.
Epileptologists. What is that? Because that's something I've never encountered. Because it's been years and years since I've seen a neurologist. What is that?
Okay.
Who is the epileptologist?
Okay. Epileptologist is a neurologist who took another 2 years training specifically for epilepsy, seizures, and getting them under control and the different treatments for it. Just like a surgeon or a brain surgeon, they went further to learn how to do brain surgery. So the epileptologists are so much better. I went 14 years going to different neurologists, and all they wanted to do was experiment with different medicines.
Okay.
And more drugs and more drugs. Basically, they were practicing medicine.
Right.
And I had no chance of getting under control. Once I left one of them and found an epileptologist, within 1 year, he found my focal point.
Really?
I had surgery, and now I'm seizure free. Because he did more tests. He, was serious about trying to stop my seizures.
Right.
And because neurologists, they deal with autism and all all kinds of brain, disorder. But an
Yes.
epileptologist is specifically for epilepsy.
Okay. Wow. So have they been around for a long time?
I don't know how long they've been around, but
Okay.
I think so.
As I had mentioned, my surgery was back in 1984.
Yeah.
And so I had never heard of that term in the past. Now,
Yeah.
I had done that, and I explained to you that after my surgery, they got rid of all these tonic-clonic seizures, grand mal, what they used to call them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that was no longer existent.
Yeah.
However, I was left with partial seizures, which I was experiencing every single day and multiple times a day, which I thought was just part of my own condition, it had nothing to do with epilepsy.
Yeah.
Yes, but I had never heard of an epileptologist. Now maybe that could have made it the switch. But when I was about 25, I took it upon myself, and I don't suggest anyone to try what I did, because I'm not a doctor in any way, shape, or form. But it's just my experience. I weaned myself off of my medication on my own. Might not have been a smart thing to do.
Yeah.
But I did do that. And in time, I tried to come off a little bit.
Yeah.
Then I noticed some side effects. That anxiety.
Yeah.
Worsened. So when that was happening, I'd go back on. Then I'd wait for a few months, and I'd try a little bit more. And eventually, I have been taking any medication since I was 25 years old now, maybe 26.
Yeah.
Yeah. But however, I was still experiencing that anxiety. I didn't a high level of it. And I thought that again was not epilepsy based.
Yeah.
Until I found out not too long ago that this was. But what I did during the time, I reconditioned my mind. And all these posts that I put out there daily.
Yeah.
What I post is what I live.
Yeah.
And what I live is something that reduced my stress completely or next to none.
Yeah.
And with my fitness, all of a sudden, slowly, I started becoming assertive, gaining my confidence, and becoming another person. Because there was a time when I would just cringe in my seat anytime a teacher would come up and mention anything about an oral report. And I think about that today, and I says, wow, where I've come, how far I've been. Now here I am. It's not really to toot my own horn, but here I'm saying this because so many others can get to do the same thing I've done.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about eliminating the medication, but reconditioning your mind. So slowly I became assertive. I became confident. And all of a sudden, things started coming in and things started getting better. My life was shaping itself. And I was around 40 years old when I started looking back, says, gosh, where all this anxiety that I was experiencing was gone. Amazed. But what I found out was actually about 3 years ago, I joined the gym. And I wanted to stay fit. I joined the gym, and because I work full time, so I work full time, and in the morning I get up at 4 a.m. I get up, I send out my posts daily. Then I was off to the gym for a whole hour. I'd push, and then from the gym I'd go to work. Then I come back, and I did this every single day. But what I had noticed that if I wanted to get up at 4, I needed my 8 hours sleep. So I had to be in bed early. I had to be in bed by 8. And it wasn't always happening. And all of a sudden, I was in my bed one night, around 2 or 3 a.m. I wake up, and I started feeling I was getting that anxiety was coming in form of goosebumps, which is what I experienced when I was younger.
Yeah.
So goosebumps would appear on only my left side,
Hmm.
and you could see a line
Oh, wow.
on one side
Hmm.
where you see goosebumps and none on the other side. Completely crazy.
Yeah.
And if this fear would get worse, all of a sudden the next side would start covering. Saliva would build. And I was frightened. So frightened and I try to explain it, but it's a tough way. It's a tough thing to explain. Where it sounds like you understand somewhat a bit about being paranoid and being frightened.
Mm-hmm.
But that what I brought up to someone in the past was that, let's just say I'm putting you in a cage with a lion.
Yeah.
Close the door, and you're not dying yet. You're not dead, but you know it's just a matter of time. That's the level of fear I was experiencing. Had nothing to do with the scenario.
Yeah.
Nothing at all to do with it. But the fear I was experiencing, that's what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. So here I was in bed and sleeping beside my wife. And all of a sudden, those goosebumps start creeping out. I wake up and paranoid. I couldn't stand being beside my wife, but I didn't want her to leave me alone.
Yeah.
And I got thinking and said, what the heck is going on here? It's just crazy. So that day, I reevaluated what I was doing. I said, wait a minute. Remember I was talking about that triangle?
Yeah.
Well, that one corner of the triangle was being distorted. So if you have a triangle, if you distort one corner, all corners get distorted because everything gets out of shape.
Yeah.
And that day, I dropped the gym completely. 2 weeks later, I was back on track. And that's when I realized, said, wow. So I still have these seizures, but how I get to control them is by the state of my mind.
Yeah.
And this is what I want to share with the world, which is why I've also created I've got my website, which is danielvincent.mykajabi.com, where I've got courses. Now I'm creating a membership program. So just so that people can get on and tap into what I know, how you can change your life, not only for people with epilepsy, but that's anybody. Yeah. If anybody can follow that triangle, you've got a lot of your life put together.
Yes, relieving stress is a major thing because that's, like we said, that's a huge trigger for seizures.
Oh,
so everybody can relieve stress out of their lives would make a big difference.
No, absolutely, it's drastic.
Yeah.
So, Chris, who's your biggest supporter?
My wife.
Oh, yes?
Yeah, since I'm so far from my family, she's pretty much my only support because I'm at home all the time.
Right.
Because I don't drive much, even though I'm seizure free. The medicine still make me tired and makes it hard to concentrate. So trying to drive very far is not a good idea.
Okay.
So she takes care of me. She's my caretaker.
She's your rock.
Yeah. She's my support.
Yeah. It's vital to have someone who you can lean on.
Oh yeah, definitely.
For sure. And I'm glad you do have someone, for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. Talking about the panic attacks, one problem I had was when I tried Keppra, seizure medicine Keppra. I was getting more, every time I took it, the panic was getting worse and worse. Until one night I looked at the bottle and said, may cause fear. Like, that was a drastic understatement. I called the doctor's office that day and said, I'm not taking another dose of this. So that night they called in a prescription for Lamictal for me, and that was the last I took it.
So Lesson to all: check for side effects.
Yeah. We all
Yeah.
have different side effects to each medicine. So trying
Yeah.
to find the right combination of medicines that will control your seizures and have side effects that you can live with is all a matter of trial and error.
That's right. And not only is it one medication or another, sometimes it can be the combination of a medicine.
Yeah, I'm on 3 different seizure medicines.
And all of a sudden, this one's good, but together may not be.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah. Thanks for bringing that up. No, it's a great point.
Yeah.
So, as we're approaching the end here, something I'd like to know how, because of all your advocacy, all the artwork, all the great stuff that you put out there, how can people view you? How can they get access to you?
They can go to the epilepsyshieldproject.com, which links me right to my Facebook page.
Epilepsy Shield.
The epilepsyshield.com.
Okay.
Epilepsyshieldproject.com. Sorry.
The Shield Project. Okay.
Yeah, you got to get all that in there.
Okay. .com. Got it. So I've got the epilepsyshieldproject.com.
Yes.
Cool. All right. So it's how about how can they reach you on Facebook? How can they see your work?
That link right there sends them to my Facebook page.
Oh yes. Okay. Yeah. Great. Okay. Because as people watch our video here, and they can just jump on and view your work, because it's. I urge everyone to just log into the epilepsyshieldproject.com. So go see Chris's work. Chris has awesome work out there. Please.
Here's one of my latest paintings.
Okay.
It's about epilepsy myths, trying to get rid of the myths, and it's about not every type of epilepsy is hereditary or genetic. Like I said, mine is from the head trauma I got. So that would not be passed on to if I had kids, it wouldn't be passed on. It's an accident. It's not genetic related. And my paintings are available on t-shirts. So there's that painting on the t-shirt.
Yes. Okay. Yes. Correct. Nice.
Through my Facebook page, there's a shop now button. And part of the percentage goes to the Epilepsy Foundation.
Oh, nice.
For earmarked for research funding.
Okay.
Because they do a lot of, when you donate to the Epilepsy Foundation of America, you can tell them if you want it to be used for research funding. And they'll do that. They support a lot of funding for the research.
Nice. So you have a cause that you donate to. That's not Chris. That's just awesome of you.
Yeah.
That shows the kind of person you are. I thank you for that.
Okay. You're welcome.
That's just awesome. So as before we end this call, what is it that you would like to leave the audience? What did you have something that you want the audience to take? What a takeaway?
The main thing is the more information we can put out there, the correct information, the more awareness we can create and end these crazy myths.
Yes.
That's the main thing. And try to get people not to be scared of us and act like we need to be, kicked out of society. Because some of my Facebook friends have been told crazy things. I mean, one of them actually had a pastor tell her not to come back to the church because he had to protect the congregation from her evil spirits. Now, whether he was just saying that because he actually believed that, or he just didn't want her having a seizure interrupting his sermon, we don't know. But still, that's just not right to have a pastor tell somebody not to come back to the church.
No, that is not right.
No. We need to get as much information out there as we can about the facts.
Yeah.
stop stuff like that from happening.
Yes. So we urge everyone to get educated on epilepsy before you make your own decisions.
Yeah. And here in the state, they're working on each state passing a law. It started out with a girl. She had a seizure in school and passed away. And
Okay.
so they named it after her. Her name was Samantha. They call it Sam's Law.
Yes.
And they're trying to pass it in each state where the teachers have to get educated about seizures and know what they are and what to do so that those type of things won't happen again.
Mm-hmm. Does she have a page on Facebook?
Oh, not that I know of. I don't.
Okay. But I know I've heard of Sam's Law many times.
Yeah, but in some states they're going by different names, like Adam's Law in one state.
Okay.
But it's important that we try to get it out there in all the states
Oh yeah.
and get that to happen, because the Epilepsy Foundation is doing the training for free. It's not like they're have to pay. The school has to pay anything. It's just the teachers need to know what to do.
Correct.
Yes. I just saw an article yesterday that a kid had a seizure in school with the COVID and his mask came off, and now they don't want to let him back into school.
Oh,
that's not right, because he violated the have to have a mask on policy.
okay.
So yeah, the teachers need a lot of training.
Yes, no, that's awareness is a huge thing. So and get rid of those myths.
Yeah, so that's what I'm working on.
Yeah, for sure. So I thank you very much, Chris. That's Chris Arceneault. So, please view his work at theepilepsyshieldproject.com.
Yes.
So I look forward to seeing more of your paintings and more of your which you have out there, Chris. And I'm sure we will get in touch at some point in time. So it was nice to chat with you for a whole hour.
Oh yes, that's great.
Who knows? Maybe we can do this again sometime.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, Chris. Have yourself a good night.
Okay, you too.
Okay, bye now.
Bye.